looking at your main channel now, some of your most viewed videos, you're looking at 5.6 million views, 2.8 million views. Could you share how you went about making these videos and why you think they did so well?
Yeah. So I've kind of found what works for my main channel niche. So I teach creators filmmaking and YouTube, but it's accessing kind of the creators who are beginning their journey or kind of early on in their journey. That's who I like talking to and who I like helping. And I also come from this film background, so I like to really focus on the cameras and cinematography and things like that. Now, early on in like 2018, I really fell into drones with the DJI Mavic Pro. That was the original one. And that was back when companies didn't really understand this whole process of giving products out to a bunch of creators and letting them all release a video at the same time. Like none of that happened back then. It was very much, you just had to be early on the pre-release product. And if you got it early, you got a chance to review it before other people. So the Mavic Pro, I got as soon as they went on sale, I was one of the first people to like put my order in, and I got the drone super early. And so I made a bunch of content around it before people had that drone. And that's what sent my channel off into this creator world versus the travel vlog world. Because I was like, oh, there's this whole thing here around cameras, filmmaking, and just the whole process. And I enjoy making content in this. I enjoy teaching and helping others learn how to use their cameras, learn how to make videos. And, now I'm getting more into teaching creators how to use story, because I think story is so important. And no matter what you do, no matter what skill level you're at, if you can understand how to tell a story, you can grow an audience.
So you believe because you were one of the first people making a DJI video at that time, that's one of the reasons it did so well, got so many views?
Yeah, it was. There was nobody that had the product yet, so everybody was interested, and drones were so new back then. I was flying drones before that drone, but like the whole buzz around drones, it was still a new kind of format. Like we had this thing in the sky that can capture videos, and the Mavic Pro was like, is so much better than the previous models. And that that helped me kind of jumpstart my journey into the kind of drone filmmaking world. But ultimately I had to pivot my channel at that point and be like, I want to go down this path, and I want to, teach, and I want to go through products and all of that, and make that conscious choice to kind of move away from travel. Now I still did some, and I'll chat about that, but ultimately that's where I pivoted. But
is it fair to say that because you saw some success with that video, that made you more confident and feel like that was the right decision to double down on that topic?
Yeah, I started to see kind of how YouTube works at that point, and kind of how I can make content with the, things that I have on my plate beyond just making videos, and how I can do this continually, year after year after year. That's kind of, I started to see that, because travel for me, it was like something I was doing at that time. And I didn't see us full-time moving out of our, apartment at the time and just traveling the world. Like if we were going to do that, then I would go full on into the travel vlogging world. Whereas, we have this production company in LA, and like, that's not something we were going to leave and we were going to stop doing. So I started to look at the reality of my situation and figure out, okay, so how do I make content with the things that I have on my plate and still be able to, be consistent on YouTube? And so that's where I, found that focusing more on this educational kind of side of building a channel really made sense for my specific situation. This is why like every creator, like their unique situation, everyone's different. And that's why some creators are, they might be 20 years old and they can just travel the world and do these crazy videos all the time. Whereas some people have a family and they have other careers, like they can leave for a week, a month, and go shoot a video kind of thing. So you really have to understand where you're at on your journey and like what makes sense for you. And everyone's journey is different.
Yeah, that's definitely something I can relate to. When I started my channel, I was backpacking, and I had most of my time was free, and I was in all these different locations, like tropical locations. So the resources I had available at that time were very different to what I later had when I decided to go back to university, and I had to run my channel alongside studying for a master's degree, which meant I had a lot less time. which changed my channel to a more educational channel, kind of like yours. And now I run this channel alongside my business, so I have an even different availability, and the channel's had to adjust around that. So I think that's a really interesting point about the channel has to suit and match your lifestyle.
Yeah, and this is where I say you really want to step back and look at your life and what things you want to do and where you want to put your time and effort, because everything's going to take time to do. And, you can move fast and go as like hard as you can with YouTube, but ultimately, like, you have to find a rhythm that works and start to be consistent with it.
That sounds like a good time to start talking about time management, unless there's anything else you want to mention around your channel and your story before we get to that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, we got onto this discussion talking about those big videos on my channel. Yeah. Just a note on that, the things that I've found that work super well are accessing, for my niche, I'm sure this works in other niches as well, is really focusing on the beginner. Because like the big videos on my channel, like you have the DJI Mini 2 Beginner's Guide. It's a cheap product for beginners. So this is going to be a product that's more widespread, more broad appeal, and it's appealing to the bigger group of people who are going to buy this product. And so I found that, focusing on more of that beginner versus like people who are really far in their journey, like people who are more advanced, is the broader market, which makes sense. But it's also something that when you start thinking that way, if you're doing educational content, you can be like, oh, there's probably things I can do that are going to access this more broad appeal, just general audience. One of the things, like on my channel, since I do talk a lot about filmmaking, I could easily dive into the world of like higher end cameras and really get technical with stuff. Like, for example, I'm shooting this, I use FX6, which is a camera that most creators aren't going to have in their office. And I have, one here, I have two more over here, but it's not a camera I ever talk about on my channel because it's with the setup, it's like a $10,000 setup. And I understand that, like, this isn't a creator setup. I use this because this is what I shoot on for my production company. Just so I have the camera, so I throw it up here and use it. But
sure,
the cameras I talk about on my channel are going to be something like the ZV-E1, which is like same type of camera, but cheaper body, much more accessible to the creator. Yeah, and I'm going to focus on those products that creators are going to use because I understand who my audience is and what they care about versus like, going down and just digging into the more expensive side of it.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And it's clever, really, isn't it? Because it's understanding your audience and packaging your videos and tailoring your channel to your audience. And also, there's relatability there. If you're talking about a $10,000 camera, you're only going to be relatable to a much smaller number of people who can afford that camera. I spoke to a YouTuber a little while ago, and he explained it, like he has an archaeology channel, and he explained how he could use all of these technical archaeology terms in his video, or he could call a video the oldest archaeological site in the world, which has a much broader appeal. So he was tapping into that idea you're giving about packaging your videos to appeal to a more broader audience. But he was talking about terminology. You're talking about actually the equipment and the topics that you're focusing on. But it falls under the same brush, doesn't it? It's interesting.
And this is how I'm approaching my second channel, because my second channel, I'm just trying to make interesting adventure stories. And so it's interesting you bring up that point of like terminology and everything, making it simpler. And that's, I think that's a big thing for creators is how do you make your channel appeal to a broader audience? And on my shorts, one of the things that's been working super well for me is I found this on Google Earth, so I went and investigated it. Like, it's a super simple concept that just reaches a broad audience because everyone uses Google and everyone's like looking on maps. And so, and there's, these Reddit forums, they're all for, what things people find on Google Earth. So I'm basically just taking that interest of like what people find on Google Earth, but then applying and making a story around it. So every video I do is like a story. So I found this on Google Earth. So I got in my Jeep, I drove out to it, and this is what I found. Super simple story from beginning to end, but it's engaging and it keeps people watching. And then there's some other things I do with shorts in there to, try and get people to watch it and make it a loop and different stuff like that. But overall, I found just making a story my average view percentage on these videos is like 90, 100% a lot of times, which is wild, especially when you get tens of millions of views.
Amazing.